In 1965, Britain was in the middle of big change. The Beatles were topping the charts, and England was close to winning the World Cup. Shopping still meant coins in your pocket, not cards or apps. But the clearest glimpse of the past comes through prices. Let's step back into everyday Britain and rediscover what life truly cost in 1965. A pint of milk was delivered in clinking glass bottles by the milkman. It cost just 4p, and the sound of rattling crates meant breakfast was near. Children peeled the silver caps, sometimes finding birds had poked through the foil. Milk wasn't just cheap, it was dependable even through snow or strikes. Back then it was the most ordinary luxury of all. A loaf of bread cost around 9p, baked fresh on every high street. The smell of warm dough filled the air as families bought loaves daily. Bread was wrapped in paper, not plastic, and eaten the same day. At less than a tenth of today's price, it was fuel for a busy country. Bread was comfort, shared at every meal. A pint of beer cost 1 shilling and 3 pence, about 6 new pence. Pubs were the heart of the community, filled with darts, laughter, and music. Beer wasn't glamorous, but it brought people together after long days. Today, a pint costs £5, but back then it was for everyone. It wasn't just a drink, it was belonging. A cinema ticket cost about 2 shillings, around 10 pence. People dressed up, queued outside, and watched double features and cartoons. It was more than entertainment, it was a ritual shared with friends. In 1965, you might have seen Goldfinger or The Sound of Music. At today's prices, that ticket would barely buy a chocolate bar. A gallon of petrol cost just under 30 pence in total. Attendants filled your tank, cleaned the windscreen, and checked the oil. A Sunday drive to the seaside wasn't a luxury, it was tradition. Today, a single liter costs more than a gallon once did. Families treasured their cars like part of the family itself. A brand new Ford Anglia could be yours for about £550. Cars were pride and freedom, cleaned every Sunday without fail. The arrival of a new car made neighbors step out to admire it. With savings and patience, owning one was achievable for most families. A car meant independence and status beyond words. The average house price was around £3,800. Mortgages were arranged face-to-face with local bank managers you trusted. Post-war homes with tidy gardens and 2 bedrooms became the dream. A house wasn't an investment, it was a lifelong home. It meant stability, family, and pride for generations. Council house rent cost about £2 per week for a family. These homes were respected, not temporary or looked down upon. Children played football on shared greens between gardens and fences. Neighbors lent tools, shared meals, and helped one another daily. That rent bought more than shelter. It bought community. Weekly groceries cost about £3 for an entire family. Meat, vegetables, and tea were wrapped by hand at local shops. Nothing came in plastic, and nothing ever went to waste. A chicken might stretch for 3 meals across the week. Food shopping was conversation and care, not just consumption. A week's wages for a working man averaged around £18. Cash came in a small brown envelope handed over on Fridays. Fathers gave it to mothers, who stretched every note with care. It went to rent, food, bills, and shoes for the children. It wasn't much, but it carried dignity and pride. Posting a letter cost just over 1 penny and 2 new pence. Each stamp carried more than ink. It carried meaning and love. Birthday cards, news, and letters arrived with the postman's knock. It was connection before screens or instant messages existed. A small price for something deeply human and real. A newspaper cost about 3 pence and was read cover to cover. People bought them daily, sometimes more than one for different views. They were thick with adverts, stories, and football scores alike. Neighbors passed them around, folding corners and saving clippings. The morning paper was a ritual that started every day. Fish and chips cost 2 shillings and came wrapped in newspaper. The smell of vinegar and frying oil filled the cool night air. Families sat on benches, sharing hot chips from their laps. It was simple, cheap, and the taste of British comfort. No restaurant could ever replace that feeling of home. A pack of cigarettes cost around 5 shillings, about 25 pence. Smoking was everywhere, in pubs, buses, offices, and cinemas. It was seen as social, stylish, and part of being an adult. Health warnings were new and few people paid attention. It was normal, accepted, and deeply part of the culture. A cup of tea at a cafe cost only a few pence to enjoy. Served in thick china with saucers, it was more than a drink. It was a pause, a chat, and a moment of connection. Local cafes were warm places filled with laughter and routine. The tea brought comfort far beyond its price. A new black and white television cost around £75. Families saved for months and gathered to watch together at night. Shows like Coronation Street and Match of the Day united everyone. Neighbors even came over to share the excitement of TV. Each living room became a small, glowing theater of joy. A haircut cost 2 shillings at the local barbershop. The air smelled of talc, shaving cream, and quiet conversation. A short back and sides was done quickly with precision. It was simple, affordable, and part of every man's routine. Barbers were more than stylists. They were part of the week. A new men's suit cost around £20 in 1965. It wasn't fast fashion. It was an investment for years to come. Tailors adjusted each piece to fit perfectly and last long. Owning a fine suit was a moment of pride and respect. Life cost less, but it often felt far richer.